Welcome to Coffee Break. Thoughtful conversations for a busy world. Let's begin. Think about the absolute biggest goal you've ever achieved in your entire life.
Yeah, take a second to really pull that up in your mind.
Right, like take a second and really put yourself back in that moment. Maybe it was, I don't know, defending a dissertation or closing on your first house.
Or finally getting that massive promotion you spent 4 years just completely grinding for.
Exactly. Now, I want you to remember the morning after you achieved it.
Oh, the morning after.
Oh.
That's the kicker.
It really is, because when you woke up, did you feel this like permanent euphoric sense of joy? Did you feel like you had crossed a finish line into a new, perpetually elevated state of being?
Probably not.
Right. Or did you wake up with an unexpected, slightly crushing sense of emptiness, like a quiet, unsettling voice in the back of your head asking, is this it?
That phenomenon, that specific disorienting emptiness right at the moment of supposed victory, it's actually one of the most heavily documented experiences in human psychology.
And universally misunderstood, I think?
Completely misunderstood. We organize our entire lives around avoiding that exact feeling. We genuinely believe that if we just reach the next milestone, we will finally be inoculated against it.
Well, today we are taking a deep dive into a set of excerpts that explains exactly why your brain is biologically wired to punish you for crossing the finish line.
Which sounds harsh, but it's true.
It is. And we're looking at a singular, highly provocative piece of source material. It's only 12 words long. The title is The Illusion of Achievement: Why Reaching Your Goals Won't Actually Make You Happy.
It's a text that functions almost as an intervention for the reader.
Yeah, an intervention on our ambition.
Exactly. What we are doing today is looking at the neurobiology, the cultural conditioning, and the evolutionary psychology embedded in this one premise.
We're going to examine why human beings are structurally incapable of finding lasting fulfillment in the act of arriving.
Which is a huge concept to wrap your head around.
So, if you're listening right now, hold your current primary goal in your mind, whatever it is you're chasing today. Because by the end of this deep dive, the fundamental script you've been following to get there is going to look completely different.
It has to look different, yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the first half of this premise. The text frames achievement not as a milestone, but as an illusion.
Right, an illusion.
When I hear the word illusion, my mind instantly goes to a magic trick. Someone actively trying to deceive me with smoke and mirrors. But that implies an external trickster, you know?
Right, and the distinction between a lie and an illusion is the necessary starting point here.
How so?
Well, a lie is a falsehood constructed by an external agent to deceive you. Like someone telling you it's raining when it's sunny.
Okay.
An illusion is a perceptual trick generated by your own sensory processing. It's something that appears undeniably real and solid from a distance, but dissipates upon closer inspection or arrival.
Like an optical illusion.
Exactly. The classic example is the optical illusion. Your brain takes in fragmented data and constructs a cohesive reality that simply does not exist in the physical world.
So it's not that society is necessarily lying to us about achievement. I mean, though we'll get to the cultural reinforcement later.
We will definitely get to that.
It's that our own internal hardware is projecting a false image. It's like the mirage in the desert.
That's a perfect analogy.
You're walking through the heat, you're severely dehydrated, and you see water on the horizon. It looks objectively real to you.
It shimmers.
Right, it shimmers, it reflects the sky. So you keep walking toward it, but the horizon keeps moving. The achievement isn't a physical place you can stand in. It's a perceptual phenomenon created by distance and desire.
The water isn't there,
Mm-hmm.
but the physiological need for the water creates the visual phenomenon.
Wow.
In the context of our ambitions, the distance is time and effort, and the desire is our craving for security or status or even emotional regulation.
So we are projecting our need for security onto this future event.
Exactly. The source material argues that the state of having achieved is that shimmering water.
Right.
From 5 years away, getting that director title or hitting a specific revenue milestone looks like a place where you will finally feel secure and respected.
And then you arrive, the shimmering water vanishes, and you are just standing in more sand.
It's just more sand. It's brutal.
But if this is an internal projection, if our brains are doing this to us, we have to ask why. Why would we evolve a perceptual system that constantly tricks us into chasing mirages?
It seems counterintuitive, right?
It makes zero sense. It seems incredibly inefficient, not to mention just emotionally exhausting. Is it just a glitch in our neurobiology?
It is the exact opposite of a glitch. It is a highly optimized survival mechanism.
Really? A survival mechanism?
Think about it. If we look at the ancestral environment in which our brains evolved, sustained happiness was an active threat to survival.
Wait, sustained happiness was a threat?
Absolutely. If our distant ancestors secured a large meal, found a safe cave, and suddenly experienced permanent euphoric contentment, they would stop striving.
Oh, I see. They would just chill.
Right. They wouldn't hunt the next day. They wouldn't gather resources for the coming winter. They would simply sit there, perfectly happy, until they starved or a predator ate them.
So dissatisfaction is actually a survival trait. The brain has to keep us moving.
Evolution does not optimize for your emotional well-being. It optimizes for survival and reproduction.
That is such a sobering thought.
It is. Therefore, it is highly advantageous for your brain to project an illusion of permanent happiness onto future achievements.
It tricks you.
It tricks you into expending the massive caloric and emotional energy required to secure resources. It points to the horizon and says, if you just get there, you can finally rest.
But the moment you arrive...
The brain immediately recalculates. It removes the feeling of satisfaction, and it projects a new mirage further down the road.
Because if you rested, you'd die. That brings up a terrifying thought about the structures we've built around ourselves today.
Know what I mean?
Well, if our brains are already wired to create these mirages, modern society seems entirely constructed to exploit that exact biological vulnerability.
Oh, 100%.
Like entire industries rely on us believing that the next purchase, the next promotion, or the next tax bracket will be the thing that finally quenches our thirst.
Capitalism and consumerism are essentially macro expressions of this biological quirk.
They feed on the mirage.
Exactly. The engine of modern industry requires infinite growth, which means it requires infinite striving from the populace.
Wow.
If people suddenly woke up and realized that the destination is empty, that the illusion of achievement is just a trick to keep them running on the treadmill, a massive portion of our economic system would collapse.
Because nobody would buy the next iPhone. Nobody would work 80 hours a week for a new title.
Right. Society benefits systemically from your perpetual dissatisfaction.
So what does this all mean? We are just getting hit from both sides. Our biology projects the mirage, and society builds the treadmill we run on to chase it.
That's a great way to put it.
But wait, I want to push back on this a little bit.
Go for it.
If the brain is constantly projecting this mirage to keep us alive, why do we feel so incredibly alive while we are chasing it? Like when I'm working on a major project and the pieces are clicking, I feel energized. I don't feel like I'm being tricked. I feel a profound sense of purpose. Isn't that the happiness the source material claims we won't get?
You're confusing agitation with fulfillment.
Agitation.
Yes. That energized feeling isn't happiness. It's a state of high physiological arousal driven by anticipation. You are experiencing the dopamine trap.
The dopamine trap. Okay, but I've always understood dopamine as the reward chemical. You know, the hit you get when you eat sugar or win a game.
That is a fundamental misunderstanding of neuroanatomy.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's a misunderstanding that keeps us trapped in this cycle.
Really? So it's not the reward?
No. Dopamine is not the chemical of reward or satiety or contentment. It is the chemical of craving, motivation, and pursuit.
Wait, craving?
Yes. The dopamine pathway, specifically the mesolimbic pathway, originating in the ventral tegmental area and projecting to the nucleus accumbens, it fires when you anticipate a reward, not when you consume it.
Okay, let me make sure I'm getting this. So the spike happens when I see the finish line, not when I cross it.
Exactly. The spike is the engine compelling you to cross it. When you are on the hunt, studying for the exam or seeing the project come together, dopamine is flooding your system.
And that's what feels so good.
Right. It narrows your focus. It suppresses pain. It feels intoxicating. It feels like drive. But it is biologically designed to shut off the moment the reward is secured.
Because once you capture the prey, you don't need the motivation to hunt anymore. The biological function of the chemical is totally fulfilled.
And the drop-off is severe.
Wow.
This is where we run straight into the second half of our source text. Why reaching your goals won't actually make you happy.
Right? Won't.
The author uses the word won't, not might not, not rarely. The mechanism of happiness is structurally entirely decoupled from the mechanism of achievement.
We chase the arrival only to find that the destination is empty.
Yes.
It perfectly explains the post-Olympic depression we see in so many elite athletes.
Oh, that is a classic example.
I mean, these are people who structure every hour of their lives for 4, 8, or 12 years around a single, highly visible finish line.
Everything is optimized for that one moment.
Right. And then they stand on the podium, the medal is placed around their neck, and weeks later, they are spiraling into profound depressive episodes.
It happens so often.
Because the scaffolding of their entire existence has just vanished. The dopamine of the pursuit is gone. And the destination itself is just a piece of metal. It doesn't intrinsically contain the joy they were promised.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the psychological term for this is the arrival fallacy.
The arrival fallacy.
Yes, it was coined by Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar. It describes the illusion that once we attain our goal, we will reach a state of enduring happiness.
Which we now know is biologically impossible.
Exactly. The Olympic athlete is just the extreme, highly magnified version of what happens to a corporate worker after a massive promotion or an author after their book is published.
You experience a brief spike of relief.
Right, relief, not joy, and it's followed by a precipitous drop in neurochemical motivation.
And because we don't understand the biology of this drop, we interpret it as a personal failure. We think, I achieved the goal, I feel empty, therefore something must be wrong with me.
Yes. Or, even more dangerously, we conclude that the goal just wasn't big enough.
Oh, man. The director title didn't fix my life, so clearly I need to be vice president.
Exactly. We just generate a new mirage on a further horizon to get the dopamine flowing again. We become addicts to our own ambition.
We step right back onto the treadmill.
We do. And this phenomenon is supported by extensive psychological literature. Most notably, the classic 1978 Brickman study on lottery winners.
Oh, I've heard of this one.
Researchers found that within months of a massive windfall, lottery winners returned to their baseline levels of happiness.
Which is crazy when you think about it. Winning the lottery is the ultimate dream for so many people.
Right, the external achievement, the ultimate financial goal, did almost nothing to alter their sustained emotional state.
So they just got used to being rich.
Essentially, yes. They adapted to the new reality, the dopamine baseline reset, and they were left with the exact same internal landscape they had before the money.
Okay, if that's true, if goals don't provide emotional fulfillment and the mechanism itself is broken, what is the actual utility of having goals at all?
That's the logical next question.
Like, should we just abandon ambition entirely and sit on the couch? If the destination is empty, why walk?
Well, that is the nihilistic trap people often fall into when they first encounter this concept.
It's tempting, honestly.
It is. But abandoning goals entirely ignores the fact that we still need to navigate the world. We have to reevaluate the utility of a goal.
Okay, so if it is not a dispenser of happiness, what is it?
A goal is simply an organizational tool. It provides scaffolding for our behavior.
Scaffolding. I like that. So it gives you a direction to point your energy?
Yes. It organizes your day, it helps you prioritize your time, it facilitates skill development, and it builds resilience.
So it's about the structure.
The utility is in the structure it provides to your present life, rather than the emotional payoff it supposedly promises in the future.
That makes a lot of sense. Like, if I decide I want to run a marathon, the value isn't in the moment I cross the finish line. I mean, the finish line is just a piece of tape across the street.
Exactly. The tape doesn't do anything for you.
Right. The value is who I become during the 6 months of 5 a.m. training runs. The discipline I build, the cardiovascular health I gain, the feeling of my lungs working in the cold air. The goal is just the mechanism that forces me into that daily reality.
What you're doing right there is shifting from a consummatory mindset to an experiential mindset.
Experiential mindset.
You are no longer trying to consume the achievement. You are using the achievement to curate your daily experience.
But making that shift requires us to confront a deeply ingrained cultural script, which brings us to the most crucial, subtle word in the source material's title.
Which word?
The word actually.
Ah, yes.
Won't actually make you happy. I mean, that word is doing massive linguistic work.
It really is.
The sentence functions perfectly well without it. Why reaching your goals won't make you happy is a punchy, clear statement. But the author purposely inserted, actually.
What's fascinating here is that linguistically, it is a word of concession and contradiction. It acknowledges a pre-existing belief.
Right.
By using it, the author proves that they know the audience believes the exact opposite. It frames the text as a revelation designed to overturn a universal expectation.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It holds up a mirror to the listener. It says, like, I know what society told you. I know what the movies told you. I know what you feel in your bones. But it is false.
And realizing that expectation was false triggers a profound psychological whiplash.
The now what moment.
Yes.
It's like you've been leaning all your weight against a heavy door for years, pushing and pushing. Suddenly, the door flies open. You stumble forward into the room, and there's absolutely nothing inside.
That is a great visual.
The resistance is gone, but the resistance was the only thing holding you up.
And the disorientation of that empty room is dangerous if we don't have the tools to process it.
Why is it dangerous?
Because society tells us that this room is supposed to be filled with lifelong fulfillment, right? So we feel ungrateful when we find it empty.
Oh, that guilt. I have everything I wanted. Why am I not happy?
Exactly. And worse, we risk becoming incredibly bitter. We see this frequently in high achievers who do everything right.
I check all the boxes.
They climb the ladder, they acquire the wealth, they secure the status, and they're utterly miserable.
Because they feel they were promised happiness by the achievement equation, they become resentful.
They blame their families, their colleagues, or just the world at large. They never realized the equation itself was flawed from the start.
They feel defrauded.
Yes.
But they were defrauded by an illusion. So how do we dismantle the illusion? If the dopamine trap keeps us living in the future, always projecting our happiness onto the next milestone, how do we find meaning in the now?
That is the ultimate question.
Because we clearly can't rely on the dopamine hits of anticipation to sustain us over a lifetime. It'll just burn us out.
We have to cultivate other neurochemical states.
Like what?
If a culture obsessed with achievement is fundamentally a dopamine-addicted culture, breaking the addiction requires intentionally engaging different biological pathways.
Okay, so we need different chemicals.
You must shift our focus to the neurochemicals associated with contentment, connection, and present moment awareness. Specifically, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins.
Explain the functional difference there. How do those feel compared to the dopamine trap?
Dopamine is a narrow, intense spotlight. It focuses all your attention on a singular external point in the future. It is frantic.
Right, the hunt.
Serotonin, on the other hand, is a diffuse glow. It is the chemical of satiety and safety. It fires when you feel respected, when you feel you have enough, and when you are fully present in your current environment.
Oh, wow.
Oxytocin is the chemical of social bonding and deep connection. Endorphins mask pain, but also produce a sense of grounded well-being during physical exertion or laughter.
So they don't have that edge to them.
Right. None of these chemicals have the spiky, high-octane thrill of dopamine anticipation.
So dopamine is like the triple shot of espresso that gets you sprinting down the street. But serotonin is the feeling of sitting on your porch, watching the sunset, actually being okay with right now.
That's a beautiful way to phrase it.
You aren't vibrating with purpose, but you are deeply content.
And that contentment is sustainable. The espresso shot wears off and leaves you depleted. The porch sunset does not.
Which is exactly what the source text is trying to tell us.
The text is attempting to wake us up to this biological reality.
Yeah.
By stating that reaching your goals won't actually make you happy, it is removing the impossible burden we place on our achievements.
We demand that our jobs, our degrees, or our bank accounts validate our existence and cure our insecurities.
That is an impossible burden for a piece of paper or a job title to carry.
We are literally asking a promotion to be a therapist and a spiritual guru.
Yes.
And when we remove that burden, the premise goes from sounding like nihilism to sounding incredibly liberating.
It's freedom.
If you know that arriving at the destination is ultimately empty of inherent joy, you stop holding your breath until you get there. You stop deferring your life until the moment of achievement.
You reclaim your present.
Yeah.
If the destination is an illusion, then the journey is the only reality. You are forced to look at the process.
You have to ask yourself, do you like the work you are doing today? Do you find meaning in the daily effort, the problem solving, the collaboration?
Because if you hate the journey, but you are enduring it solely for the magical happiness payoff at the end, this text is a harsh wake-up call telling you that the payoff does not exist.
It reminds me of the myth of Sisyphus.
Oh, yes. Perfect connection.
Condemned by the gods to push a massive boulder up a hill for all eternity, only to watch it roll back down the moment it reaches the top.
Over and over again.
Right. If Sisyphus believes that the whole point of his existence is to get the boulder to the summit and leave it there, his life is pure torture, because the achievement is impossible.
The boulder will always roll down.
Exactly. A new problem will always arise. The universe keeps moving.
The concept of arrival implies a static state. Like, did you get somewhere, you unpack your bags, and the story ends happily ever after.
But human life is entirely dynamic.
Right. The moment you achieve something, you still have to wake up the next day, make breakfast, navigate relationships, and deal with the reality of being human.
The credits don't roll just because you got the promotion.
No, they don't.
But looking back at Sisyphus, he has a choice in how he interprets his punishment.
How so?
If the meaning of his life isn't the summit, if he realizes the summit is an illusion, he can find meaning in the pushing.
Yes.
He can find joy in the traction of his boots on the ground, the strength of his muscles, the grit of the stone against his hands. The goal of the summit merely provides the resistance necessary for him to engage his strength.
Albert Camus famously concluded his essay on Sisyphus by stating, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy."
Not because he succeeds in leaving the boulder at the top.
Right, but because he embraces the struggle itself. The meaning is in the effort, the present moment of pushing.
That's profound.
Our goals are our boulders. We push them up the hill, and the moment we get them to the top, they're going to roll down the other side.
The joy has to be found in the pushing.
It has to be.
Which requires a fierce daily practice of mindfulness, because that dopamine trap is always there, waiting to hook us back in.
It is deeply wired into us.
The moment you look away from the path beneath your feet and stare too long at the horizon, the mirage reappears.
You have to constantly remind yourself.
Right. You have to say the goal is a direction, not a destination. The arrival is an illusion. The reality is this step right now.
It is an entirely different way of operating in the world.
It really is.
It is stepping off the treadmill of societal expectations and evolutionary trickery and deciding to walk with intention.
You still have a destination in mind. It still guides your compass.
But you are actually looking at the landscape around you as you walk. You are no longer burdened by the expectation that the clearing at the end of the woods will magically bestow lifelong joy upon you.
You are free to just experience the woods.
Exactly.
Let's pull all these threads together because we've taken 12 words and unpacked a vast architecture of human psychology and biology from them.
It's been quite the journey.
It really has. Our mission today was to critically examine a singular, highly potent premise, the illusion of achievement. Why reaching your goals won't actually make you happy. First, we deconstructed the illusion. We established that achievement is a perceptual mirage. It's an optical trick created by the distance of our goals and the deep evolutionary desire for security.
And we saw how the brain projects this mirage to ensure survival, while modern capitalist structures exploit it to maintain infinite productivity.
We then decoupled goals from happiness, severing the causal link entirely. We explored the arrival fallacy and the deeply misunderstood dopamine trap.
We established that our neurochemistry rewards the anticipation and the hunt, shutting off the moment of capture.
Meaning the destination itself is neurologically empty, which leads to the profound disorientation and depression many experience upon reaching a major milestone.
Then we confronted the actually factor, the acknowledgement of our deeply ingrained cultural bias. We explored how the failure to understand this illusion leads to bitterness and resentment.
But ultimately, we found that recognizing the emptiness of the destination is a liberating truth. It reframes goals from being happiness dispensers to being structural scaffolding. It forces us out of the dopamine-fueled future and into the serotonin-rich present, finding meaning in the now through the daily act of pushing our boulders.
It shifts our entire paradigm from consuming an achievement to experiencing a life.
We started this deep dive talking about the expectation of precision, the engineering blueprint of a life, the X-ray of success, where society points to a diploma or a bank account and says, there it is, you are happy.
But as we've seen, that blueprint is a fiction.
The X-ray is showing us a ghost.
A literal mirage.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Something to carry with you as you go back to pushing whatever boulder you're currently pushing. If the destination of achievement is truly an illusion, and reaching your goals won't actually bring you happiness, then what is the true metric of a life well lived? If you strip away the pursuit of the next big thing, what is left for you to find meaning in, right here, right now?
That's the real work.
Take a hard look at your finish lines today. Are they serving you, or are you serving them? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for spending this time with us on Coffee Break. If this conversation stayed with you, you can find more episodes here on the channel. Until next time, take care.